From a puppet theater to map pinpoints, these are 100 build hacks you need to know. If you line up banners on top of shelves, the banner's natural waving animation will move in and out of the shelf's texture, creating a smooth wave effect. It's an easy way to add animated detail to your builds without using any redstone. By surrounding a bed in some shelves and placing some trapdoors on top, we can finally have a proper Minecraft casket. Have you ever seen this copper block before? The one on the right is clearly made of copper, but it doesn't look familiar, and the one on the left is just bizarre. Well, as it turns out, by stacking 4 copper bulbs in a square like this and then placing them behind a wall of stairs, we can only see the corners of each of the blocks, creating the texture for the mysterious copper block. The block on the left is created in the same way, only it uses test blocks instead. Frog spawn placed inside invisible item frames makes for surprisingly realistic barnacles, perfect for detailing shipwrecks, docks, or underwater builds. By using a series of skulk sensors attached to trapdoors, the birds will constantly activate each other through sound vibrations, keeping the flock flying. Up close, they may not exactly look like proper birds, but from a distance, the motion is all that matters, and it really makes the skies above your base feel a lot more alive. Inside your cave rivers, mix in stone blocks and stairs to give the terrain more texture. With a debug stick, you can even rotate some stairs into corner shapes for a more natural look. To finish it off, add a few dripstone pieces for that extra cave-like detail. Did you know you can cycle through different blocks with a single piston? You see, the falling sand gets caught by the powdered snow and pushed back to the top of the cycle by the slime block. This can be expanded to create an animated pixel art that cycles through the different sand layers. It looks so cool! By placing only the bottom half of a bed and placing a trapdoor on one end, we can create this amazing little compact chair design. Unlike chairs made using slabs, this one actually has little legs and a soft cushion to sit on. Let's go gambling! The shelf block looks strangely similar to a slot machine, and if you fill its slots with different banner patterns, then decorate it with a trapdoor, lever, and lightning rod, you'll have a perfect slot machine design. Add in some redstone like this setup by Rexstone and Michael23B, and the machine even becomes fully functional. Just be careful so you don't end up with gambling addictions. Place a few dried gas above your windows, and you can have tiny frowning gargoyles as decoration. Since they're all shriveled and grey, they look like they're made of stone, and they blend in perfectly with stone-based builds. Who knew that this little guy would make such a great decoration? Most players go with iron bars and building giant fences, but if you want something that feels a bit older and more weathered, try using copper grates. To support the fence, you can add tall red pillars and then top them off with lightning rods to mimic rusty barbed wire. This combination makes the build look less like a prison fence and more like an old industrial barrier or a forgotten city wall. Try using small pointed dripstone pieces as ant hills. Just place them on coarse dirt and regular dirt blocks, then surround the area with tall grass and grass blocks to make it feel wild and natural. It's a subtle detail, but it adds a ton of realism. Beneath your smoker, place a magma block and surround it with 4 powered iron trapdoors. On top of the smoker, build a pipe out of deep slate walls that connects into the wall. This way you'll have a realistic hot furnace. By building the fireplace floor out of blackstone, you can mix in gilded blackstone and resin clumps to create the look of glowing embers scattered across the ground. Add a few leaf litters on top to resemble piles of soot or charred wood, and you'll have a smoldering fireplace that feels cozy enough to curl up beside. If you put frog spawn into a glowing item frame, it starts to look just like a pepperoni pizza. You'll need a bit of imagination, but inside a pizzeria build, it's instantly recognizable. You can also swap out the frog spawn for leaf litter, and suddenly you've got a meaty pizza instead. Since a shelf can hold 3 items, it works perfectly as a headstone. Just place 3 patterned banners to spell out RIP and you're done. Even though it's only 1 block, it looks great on its own. And if you fill a whole graveyard with shelves, the effect is even more than enough without extra decorations. Do you like my moped? Well, you can build the body with oak blocks and a lectern, then add a dark oak slab and a daylight sensor for the seat. Use a debug stick to attach tripwire hooks to the sides of the lectern. Perfect for handlebars! Place an item frame with a honey block on the front for the headlight, then sink 2 armor stands with wither skeleton skulls into snow layers to make the wheels. And just like that, you've got a super detailed moped ready to bring to life to your city streets. If you place an oxidized copper golem statue under a carpet, the lightning rod on its head will poke through. This makes it look like one of the tall, thin plants from warped forest biomes. By surrounding it with actual warped plants, some cyan candles, and full-size lightning rods, you can create a natural-looking patch of green plants. Plus, since the golem has 4 different poses, you can add even more variety to your plant designs. With commands, you can place leaf litter patterns on the surface of water, making it look like fallen leaves are floating. It's a perfect way to capture the full season and adds variety, especially since lily pads are usually the only option. By using a red banner with random white dye patterns, we can create what actually looks like a white banner covered in some red bloodstains. Using different combinations of patterns, the shapes of these stains can be slightly different, and you can use them as bloodstained curtains in your scarier builds. And if you start with a banner other than red, you can of course make the stain any color. Using blue makes it look like a wet towel hung up to dry, and using brown makes it look like it was used to clean up some dirt. Arches can be tricky to build, especially smaller ones since there's so little space to work with. But here's a neat trick for castles. Use wall blocks with 2 anvils and a cauldron in the center. The result is a simple yet beautiful arched window that looks perfectly natural. Check out my mini puppet theater! Not only do the shelves give the theater some nice decoration, but since we can place items into the shelves, we're actually able to put banners with letters on them into the slots and spell out the words Puppet Show. To top it all off, these 2 banners hanging in the back have designs that make them look like curtains, and since you can walk through banners, the puppet theater is actually functional. By placing a series of colored banners in a shelf, we can create this super simple design for a horizontal traffic light. If you're looking to create a light that's really compact and doesn't take up a ton of space, this is definitely a solid solution. By utilizing a combination of orange stained glass and resin clumps, we can create some nice orange autumn leaves. It's a great way to make your build feel a bit more themed to the season. Since shelves are slightly thicker than trapdoors but thinner than stairs, they make the perfect in-between block for building smoother, more natural looking arches. One of the simplest contraptions in Minecraft is funneling down farm materials into a composter and then into an outpost storage. However, by using some fences for the limbs, walls for the shoes, and some decorations for the statue to hold, this random stack of 5 blocks becomes something with a lot more character. This is a baby sea turtle made out of items. All you need is a fire coral in an invisible item frame with an acacia button placed in the same block. And just like that, you've got a tiny red sea turtle. If you instead use a coral fan, it even looks like a washed up jellyfish. Poor thing. Oh wait, it's just a button. A surprisingly cute build is just combining a skeleton skull and a pale oak fence to get a skull and bones design. It could also act as a scarecrow design for your gardens. Look at this bouncy beach ball floating on top of the water. To make it yourself, summon a small invisible stand, and then equip it with a beach ball player head. Push it into a pool with soul sand at the bottom, and it'll bounce up and down in the bubble column. It'll add a lively atmosphere to your beaches. Notice anything strange about the wheels of this train cart? Well, if you look closely, you'll see that its suspension is actually made from copper golems. When they're in their sitting pose, their little arms work perfectly for adding diagonal details to mechanical builds like this. By using commands, we can illegally place down a pointed dripstone in its tip merge block state, and a baby sweet berry bush on top of it to create the appearance of a mini tree in the middle of growing. And then for a slightly larger growing tree, set the pointed dripstone to frustum and the sweet berry bush to an age of 1. Instead of sticking the dragon egg behind a boring glass display, celebrate in style with this epic statue. The body is built from quartz, the sword from nether brick walls, with the dragon egg proudly held in one hand and a dragon head crushed beneath the statue's foot. It's a creative way to mark the ender dragon's death. This is a Tanabata tree, which is a Japanese bamboo tree where people hang their wishes. Place down bamboo for the trunk, add azalea leaves to make it look more like the real thing, then hang colorful signs to represent the wish papers swaying in the breeze. The result is a bright, festive build that brings life and color to wherever you place it. This is a beautiful muddy dirt path. You can build this beautiful path using a mix of mud, rooted dirt, coarse dirt, podzol, muddy mangrove roots, and even soul soil. Add short and tall dry grass to make the ground feel more alive, and use dried leaves to smooth the transition between dirt and grass. The result is a path that feels realistic and honestly pretty epic. By placing an iron bar under a chain, you'll get a simple wind chime. It's a cute build that fits in under your trees or even your house roofs. Everyone knows a classic Minecraft piano with dragon heads as the piano keys, but how about a diagonal one? This grand piano creatively uses looms to represent the strings of the piano, and the quartz slabs represent the piano keys. It's not perfect, but if you look at it, you clearly know what it's supposed to be, which is insanely impressive. Check out this compact coffee machine. Drop an armor stand into the block under a stair, place a piglin head inside, and cover the top and sides with trapdoors to get this beautiful coffee machine. Just don't ask why the coffee tastes like bacon. This might be one of the most cursed Minecraft builds out there. By building a train design and summoning a happy gas with its face exposed, you end up with something that looks like Thomas the Tank Engine, only with a happy gas grin. Choo-choo! This is an outdoor shower for a beach house, complete with some nice cleaning products. The pail-like button makes for a perfect bar of soap, and a stack of candles is a great stand-in for shampoos and conditioners. The carpet acts as a shower mat, and with soul sand acting as a wet, sandy floor. But the best detail has got to be the shower head itself. It's made using a trial spawner in an item frame. It just goes to show that you can make a really simple build into something great with the right details. Check out my car! Most of it's built with simple blocks like stairs, trapdoors, and carpet. But the sides are where things get creative. Shelves are placed around the exterior, and even the headlights are shelves with glass panes and walls inside them. Did you know it's possible to make your Minecraft farms exhaust fumes? By using redstone, this player was able to create a large pumpkin farm with this harvesting machine that actually emits a smoky exhaust as it works. So, how is this possible? Well, underneath the machine is a bunch of campfires and dispensers, and a second flying machine hidden under that. The second one activates all of the dispensers, with one side lighting the campfires with flints and steels, and the other side placing water into the campfires to turn them off. Since they both move at the same time, what you get is this incredibly realistic effect. Minecraft doesn't have toilets, right? Wrong! You can actually build super simple urinals using just pale oak trapdoors and smooth quartz slabs. And to separate each one, just place deep slate walls in between. But now I'm just wondering why you'd build one since Steve doesn't use the bathroom. Stop entering my base! If you're sick of mobs trespassing, try this barricade design. Just alternate oak logs with mud brick walls, then top it off with pointed dripstone spikes. The dripstone blends perfectly with the wood, making the whole build look both natural and intimidating. Just build a regular lava pool and add some random little patches of magma blocks near the edges. Then go in and add some resin clumps randomly around the magma blocks, and you'll have a perfect lava gradient. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could even throw in some nether gold ore for a few spots of really hot lava. Lightning rods don't always look great sitting on your roof, but if you still want to protect your builds from burning down in a thunderstorm, you'll need to hide them somewhere. A clever solution is to turn them into floating lanterns. As long as the rod is exposed to the sky, it still works, so you can cover the other sides with trapdoors or banners. The result is a gorgeous lantern design that secretly keeps your base safe from lightning. Most players know smokers allow you to cook your foods twice as fast as furnaces do. But there's one problem. The smokers don't actually make any smoke. But if you just place a campfire directly below a smoker, the smoke is actually able to pass through the block and make it look like the smoker properly emits smoke. By placing down pale oak shelves, filling them with alternating sea lanterns, and powering them all so that they connect, we can create this awesome looking sci-fi lighting design. Place a bunch of these down in the corridor of a spaceship and you'll feel like you stepped right into Star Wars. Of course, the lanterns won't actually emit light when they're in the shelf like this, so you'll have to add some other kind of lighting to avoid your halls being completely dark. If you're decorating a beach build, then you need to add this amazing anchor. A perfect mixture of blackstone blocks, slabs, and stairs are used to create the recognizable anchor shape. And then a little patch of stripped birch logs is placed where the anchor meets the sand to give the impression that the sand is more wet and compressed. Place a copper golem statue underneath a map in an item frame, and you have what looks like a pin sticking into the map. By placing a few of these in different colors around a larger map, you can have real physical labels that show notable areas in your world. These gutters will fill with water automatically when it rains. But how do you detect when it rains? You might think of cauldrons, daylight detectors, or even fire, but each has flaws and take too long. Surprisingly, the most reliable rain detector is dogs! When a dog gets wet in the rain, it shakes itself dry once under a roof. By boxing a dog in while repeatedly placing and removing a powdered snow block above, you can detect when the dog shakes after getting wet. That shake produces a vibration a skulk sensor can read, giving you a precise signal for when rain begins. That signal lets you trigger dispensers to fill your gutters exactly when the rain starts. By powering two shelves with redstone and placing buttons in their inner slots, you can create a perfect cabinet design. Then place upside-down barrels behind them to make the cabinets fully functional. Sure, it might be easier to store everything in one big chest room, but there's just something charming about decorative storage like this. Check out my Minecraft hot dog! Yep, you can actually make a hot dog in Minecraft. If you want your own, just dye a leather helmet to look like a bun. Then grab a sentry armor trim and apply it with redstone to give the ketchup effect effect. Next, place a heavy-weighted pressure plate on top of a slab. Add 2 snow layers beneath it and dispense an armor stand into the slab. Finally, put the helmet on top and boom! You've got yourself a glizzy. If you place a carpet on top of a copper golem statue, this little lightning rod will stick out the top. So, by combining this with some trapdoors, shelves, and other decorations, we can put together this really cool arcade cabinet design. The copper golem's antenna is the joystick, and the painting is the screen. Then in the shelf below, we can place some items to represent the coin slot and the start button. You should decorate each of your portals to show where they go. For your home base portal, try using a mix of oak wood, lecterns, posed armor stands, and fence gates. Together, they give the portal a warm, homey vibe. With some spruce trapdoors, fence gates, and barrels, you can create some hanging storage. By mixing up how you place the blocks, you can create different furniture designs as well, or even add in some chiseled bookshelves, lanterns, and flower pots to make things prettier. Spruce wood looks particularly good because the barrel is based off the spruce texture. If you add a lightning rod onto a copper golem's head, it will make it look really strange. We can even stick a candle on top of an upside-down lightning rod to give it more of a pointed antenna. But by combining 2 lightning rods like this, we can end up with this absolutely hilarious result, which makes it look like the copper golem has an insanely long antenna. To make your TNT builds look even more explosive, surround them with red candles. They perfectly resemble sticks of dynamite. You can vary the amount of candle or even light a few for extra effect, making the whole setup look like a bundle ready to blow. Look at this beautiful shrine with a human statue in the center. The effect is made by using a debug stick on a diorite wall, pushing the sides to look like arms. From some angles, it looks a little odd. The head is the same thickness as the body, but straight on it really feels like a custom modded block. The backdrop is terracotta, and the berry bush is placed on top of a decorated pot with commands. With just trapdoors, slabs, and rails, you can make a fun little cat play area. Since rails can actually be placed on flipped trapdoors, you can build the illusion of tiny floating bridges for your cats to run across. If you're building a gym, try this bench press design. The bench uses a black bed, a few signs, and a lectern. For the barbell, use oxidized lightning rods and a copper chain for the bar, dark oak shelves for the plates, stripped dark wood on the sides, and an oxidized copper block in the center to show the bar poking through. Finish it off with 2 dispensers to place armor stands on each side. And just like that, you've got the perfect setup to work out your blocky biceps. Banners sway gently in the wind, so you can actually combine them with glowing item frames to create blinking lights. It involves no redstone and is all just a banner flapping back and forth in front of them. It looks especially cool inside underground tunnels. Sculk blocks look surprisingly close to end portal blocks. Using them, we can make a pretty funny recreation of an end portal. We can also use reinforced deep slate and sculk blocks to make it look activated. By using a spawner block display stretched across 3 blocks and adding chains on either side, you can create what looks like a cast iron fence. It ends up looking like a dark iron bar fence, and honestly, I think it looks pretty nice. For a super quick chandelier, try hanging some glowberries and trapdoors up like so. It'll be a very pretty addition to your dining room. Make sure to clip the ends with shears so they don't keep growing into a berry vineyard. If you want to make your boats more realistic, you can use stained glass paints to create water trails behind your boat. How do you make this tree? Dripstone blocks are used as a stem, and flowering azalea leaves are used as the branches. A cool trick we can do is put azalea bushes on the floor to look like some flowers fell to the ground. This is a functional mailbox. It's made with just a lectern, barrel, lever, and pressure plate. It's perfect to use on any survival server. You can create these fancy tables by dispensing an armor stand into the ground, placing a scaffolding block, and surrounding it with trapdoors. You can exchange a center helmet and trapdoors with all different kinds of combinations. I personally prefer using iron trapdoors with an iron helmet in the middle. You'll need to use a redstone block to power the iron trapdoors for this one. You may know you can type special characters into signs, but a cool trick you can do with this is place a square symbol at the edges of the sign. It'll look like the sign is nailed down and make a door seem barricaded. With just some bamboo fences, a pot, and a glass pane, we can create this water pump that looks like it's actually pumping water into the pot below. Placing several warped hanging signs in a row allows us to create some really good looking sidewalls for the truck bed, and then by stacking some wooden boats in the back, we make a very interesting looking bundle of bamboo. You need this knife rack in your kitchens. To build it, place down an armor stand on top of a trapdoor and adjust its pose so that its head is pointed slightly up. Then use a piston to push a beehive into the armor stand from the side. And now if you place a few candles on the block, it'll look like the knife handle sticking out of the knife block. If you mix in some barrels with your spruce floor, you'll get this unique checkerboard pattern. As an added bonus, you'll be able to use your floor as storage. By using commands to place vines on the backsides of ladders, you can create this design for a vine-covered trellis. This would make for a great addition to a garden build. You could even consider swapping out the vines for glow lichen to change up the types of vines crawling on the trellis. A cool build hack is using some ladders, a rail, and a glass block to create an empty cage. If you add a honey block underneath, you could actually trap a chicken inside this cage without it escaping. Since the ladders have solid hitboxes and the honey block stops the chicken from being able to jump out. You can use commands to summon a spyglass on an armor stand. Then if you rotate it, it'll look like a bottle sitting on a counter. Minecraft needs more desserts! All we have are cakes and cookies. So to make our own, just combine an end rod and stripped cherry log. It'll look like cotton candy. How does this room have light? There isn't a single visible light source because it's all hidden in the ceiling. Simply place some glowstone blocks and cover them up with carpets on top of string. This way you'll have a clean ceiling without yellow glowstone sticking out. Path blocks are a great fit for grass, but how about for stone? Turns out you can use iron ore and raw iron blocks to create a rusty pathway matching the aesthetic. Check out this tiny city. The road is made of black concrete powder and covered in different colored buttons to resemble cars passing by. And the taller buildings are constructed using a combination of walls, fences, chains, iron bars, flower pots, and end rods for a wide variety in shape and height. You could keep this city to the tiny 5x5 area we've built it in, or you could extend it for miles and pretend to be a giant monster stomping around in a city. Run! Run for your lives! If you just killed the Ender Dragon and want to show your friends, try building a statue of a dead dragon with just some black stone, coal blocks, amethyst crystals, and a dragon head. You'll create a pretty cool-looking dragon. You could even add an end rod with a candle on top to look like it has a sword in its head. By placing concrete blocks and colored player heads, we can create these realistic Lego bricks. You can make them out of all kinds of different colors and make them any size you want. With just a few banners and lanterns, you can create a ghost. It's a perfect trick during Halloween. Ooh. Dogs are pretty cool, but platypuses are even better. To build one, use some daylight sensors, warped blocks, levers, candles, and a slab for the beak. It looks so cute. Beacons are a transparent block, so the beams can go through other beacons. Using this feature, you can stack a few up and build the pyramid out of different blocks to look like a custom beacon. By simply placing some hanging roots on the bottom side of a pink-stained glass block, we've got what perfectly resembles a little pink jellyfish. And we can make a few different variations of jellyfish with purple, magenta, yellow, or orange glass too. Don't build your chimney like this. Instead, just add an extra wall block and pressure plate to make it a lot more realistic. This is because chimneys in real life have a cap to prevent objects from getting in. Want to make your own frying pan in Minecraft? Here's how. Start by placing an armor stand and wearing a netherite helmet. This will be the bottom of your frying pan. Create the handle by pushing another armor stand into an anvil, mob skull, and fence. Then drop them into the ground so they stick out in a line. Push stair blocks to carefully cover everything, leaving only the top of the netherite helmet and the tips of the handle pieces visible. Place an invisible item frame above the pan and insert yellow wool to represent the yoke. Portals are normally lame, but you can make them so much cooler. By placing some acacia and warped wood, you can create a Japanese-themed portal. But if you want a more natural look, try surrounding your portal with stones, leaves, and grass. It'll look like the portal magically appeared from the ground. But my all-time favorite portal design is surrounding the portal in amethyst, calcite, and geode blocks. The colors just blend so nicely. This is an Xbox, and building it is actually quite easy. Place down the top of the console, then dispense an armor stand into the side. Once you equip it with the bottom skull, your Xbox will be complete. You can build some cute drawers by combining lecterns, signs, shulkers, slabs, and trapdoors. This flat-screen TV was built in vanilla Minecraft. To make it, push two armor stands and give them both dragon heads. Next, use a piston to shove blocks into them, and optionally use an invisible item frame to put a trapdoor as the TV controls. Just add some extra detailing like a table below to house some speakers to complete your setup. Normal cars are boring! Instead, check out these flying cars. They can be built in a wide number of shapes and sizes, as long as you make sure to use tinted glass for the windows and a lightning rod and a hopper in the back to make them all look consistent with one another. Ever wanted wall slabs? Well, this is the next best thing, because all you have to do is place beds and use a debug stick on the pillow. This will give you a beautiful wall floor. Just make sure the sides are covered so you don't see the bed frames sticking out. Cherry biomes are covered in petals. However, they can also be used to create interesting pixel art. Another use for flower petals is creating a beautiful cherry pathway. It's pretty romantic and perfect for a Valentine's build. I just found a new way to draw in Minecraft. It's with villagers. You see, by running this command, you can make villagers spawn right in front of you, and you can write all sorts of things. Although it's quite difficult to create something beautiful, it's quite funny seeing all the villagers just floating around in the sky. What's even better is that you can swap the villagers out for any other mob like creepers or even happy ghasts. Drawing with happy ghasts is especially cool because you can walk on top of their solid hitboxes after you're done. If you're building a tiny one-block tall house and need an entrance, most players will just use a regular trapdoor. But as an even better solution, if you have access to commands, you can set block either the upper or lower part of the door individually individually and they'll still be functional. This lets you have an actual door for your tiny homes instead of having to settle with trapdoors. This is a guardian robot. It's a clever design using blocks like hoppers, walls, and stairs. It looks like a cyborg robot staring you down. Campfires are needed in any great build, but you can make them even better. Just place some magma blocks behind and it'll look like hot burning coals behind the flames. Through the use of custom player heads, we can have custom wheels for our Mars rover. The wheels are connected by levers to the main body of the rover, which I absolutely love. By combining mud with mangrove roots, you'll get a block that looks just like a rotten melon. You can place a withered rose right next to it as the stem. But if you want a Nintendo Switch, place 3 armor stands, equip them with custom skulls, and push them towards the center. Next, just push a block down on top, and you'll have a Nintendo Switch all in vanilla Minecraft. If you place a button on an invisible item frame, it'll look like a tiny bug. You can have them crawling on anything from cakes, logs, and even your own floor. But if you exchange the items for a glowing item frame and birch buttons, you can get some cool fireflies. Stake! Instead, by alternating between 2 end rods and then 2 iron trap doors and carpets, we can create a staircase that's actually still functional. And as a bonus, the end rods act as a light source for your staircase. You can create a super fun game with just a few blocks. Begin by creating the border of your game and then fill the insides with drip leaf. Last one standing wins! The game can be made even more challenging by adding some snowballs that players can throw to take down the drip leaves. This is a working swing, but how do you build it? Begin by placing the supports of the swing and digging out a section for powered rails. In here, you'll place a saddled strider and then cover him up with string and moss carpet. For the ropes of the swing, attach leads to chickens and cover them up. Lastly, just splash the strider with invisibility to get your fully functional swing. By using commands to summon a hoglin named Dinnerbone that doesn't take damage, we can make an upside-down hog that's ready to be roasted. Then by using end rods or lightning rods, we can put them on a stick and cook them over a fire. You could technically do this with any mob like normal pigs or even a giant ravager. This is a tiny well! Place down a few stairs and waterlog them. For the roofing, add some diagonal slabs like so and top it off with some signs. What's great about this well is that it actually functions as an infinite water source even though it's so small. While you can already put a sapling in a flower pot, it's so small. To create a slightly bigger one, place down a decorated pot, fence, and leaves. And now you'll have a mini tree. By putting an armor stand into a floating trapdoor and placing a banner, you'll have your very own art stand. Now if we create a lot of these, it'll look like we're at art class. If you add candles near TNT, it'll look like sticks of dynamite. Make sure you don't accidentally light the TNT though. This sugarcane is growing with lava, but how? Just plant a sugarcane normally, then push a block into the water with a piston. You can now exchange the block for whatever you want, and lava looks pretty cursed. Ever wanted to waterboard a villager? To do so, simply put a villager in a cauldron and flip it over using a Dinnerbone name tag. Chains can then be hung above its feet to make it look like it's being hung there. If you want a simple yet creative Christmas tree, try this one. The lights are powered by a line of observers hidden inside the tree's trunk, which extend out across the branches to power the lamps. Now if we cover the whole thing in leaves and add some candles, we have a perfect Christmas tree. If you want a simple tiki torch, just prop up a simple pole, place down a campfire on top, and surround it with signs. You'll get a pretty light source that came straight from a tropical island. This has got to be the coolest wall torch ever! What's even better is that it's quite simple to make. Just place a dragon head in an item frame, place an end rod, and add candles on top. It looks like the dragon is holding the torch. Cobwebs are often used as chimney smoke, but it turns out coral fans look a lot better. They actually match the smoke color and the shapes look like puffs of smoke. Unfortunately, they have to be placed on top of invisible blocks in creative mode. When you place a dragon head in an item frame, you're able to place a lightning rod in front of it, which makes it look like dragon is holding it in its mouth. If you have access to invisible item frames, you can also put a gold block in on the lightning rod to look like some sort of magic staff. Do you like my Nokia phone? I made it inside of a loom with the following combinations. By itself, it still looks like a banner, but if you combine it with a shield, it'll look even more like a phone. Just drop it in an invisible item frame, and you'll have just a phone sitting on a table. By placing 6 lightning rods around a copper block underwater and then connecting it to the ocean floor with chains, we can create a whole minefield of these naval mines. If you place a stake in an invisible item frame, you might notice it looks a bit like a muddy footprint. This could be great for adding some extra details to your forest paths, or even as a way to prank your friends with a trail of footsteps in their house. If you're terrible with bows, you need to build this. It uses a target block and a comparator. The closer your arrow is to the bullseye, the further the redstone pulse will go up. And if you hit the bullseye, a firework will shoot up. Yay! This statue is boring and lifeless, but this emoji statue is alive with actual blinking eyes. To create it, just put this special eyeball pattern on a banner and place it above a trapdoor whose color matches the color of the eyelid. And then as the banner slowly sways back and forth, the lower half of the banner will appear and disappear gradually, creating the illusion of blinking. When you place carpet it on top of signs, the top of the sign will actually poke out. You can use this feature to create all sorts of crazy rug patterns or even make a realistic looking road. Ever wanted to be a stormtrooper? Well, by just combining some shaper armor trims, netherite, and iron armor, you'll have yourself a set of stormtrooper gear. Now, if you do the same thing with the snout armor trim and lapis lazuli, you can create Clone Wars armor. You can make a baker's oven by using bricks, mud bricks, and a campfire below some polished stone. Although it doesn't make cooking the food any faster, it's a perfect detail to add into your village kitchens. Help! I'm wanted! If you want to make this wanted sign, all you need to do is put your player head into an invisible item frame, and then place a sign on the same block, typing the word wanted in the top row. These signs can act as bounty posters, and you can even include rewards for hunting players down. If you want to feel like a real superhero, why not try storing your armor stands in these light-up tinted glass display cases? Since tinted glass doesn't let light through, your armor will be drenched in darkness. But with lamps hidden at the bottom of the display, you can light them up each one at a time, really making you feel like Batman. With invisible item frames, we can make decorations so it looks like weapons and tools are hung upside down. How do you create this super long piston? Place a piston, right-click it with a debug stick, then add fences in between, and set the piston head using commands. This is like an extended piston. By placing two vertical trapdoors together, you'll get yourself what looks like a vertical slab. This works particularly well with the spruce trapdoors because the texture's perfectly aligned. To prevent people from sleeping under bridges, some city designers built spikes under the bridges. Now in Minecraft, YouTuber Egar replicated this by placing a ton of dripstones below his bridge so villagers don't camp out there. With just a lightning rod and two glass panes, we can make an awesome lightsaber. Since there are plenty of different glass colors, you can make any type of lightsaber you want. Plus, you can swap out the hilt for a different block, like an end rod, iron bar, or candle, to really change up the look. Want to make a placeable cap in Minecraft? You see, by placing two armor stands with helmets, one placed flat on the ground and one on a trapdoor, then pushed together using pistons, will have a layered, stylish hat look. You can also dye them for different cap colors. By using two grindstones on the bottom of the plane, it looks like this plane actually has two little wheels to land on. And by placing a campfire in the front behind the propeller, it looks like the plane has a smoking engine. Then with a minecart, the plane's front seat can actually be functional, allowing you to take a ride in it. Whee! Wait, this isn't moving. If you want to keep out monsters off your lawn, do this! Mobs will avoid walking over berry bushes, so just plant them beneath the ground and place carpets on top to blend in with the background. Good luck getting in now. For a bit of variety, you can use pale oak fences, trapdoors, carpet, and mushroom blocks to create these medium-sized mushrooms. Make sure to mix around different trapdoor and slab types to enhance the atmosphere. By combining lapis lazuli and the rib armor trim of golden armor, you can create an Egyptian crown. Or by using the silence armor trim with copper on green dyed armor, you can create a set of green camo gear. How do you make these custom flower pots? Start by placing 3 snow layers, then a dirt block. Next, dispense the armor stand and give it a leather helmet to create your wider flower pot. Plus, since leather armor is dyeable, we can dye this new flower pot any color we want. You can create a mini universe. Simply place some sculpt blocks down as outer space. Use a custom skull to be the earth. Finally, add invisible item frames with fire charges and firework stars inside for extra effects. If you create a wall of oak blanks and make the bottom out of pale oak to look like the wall is in the middle of being painted. To make it even better, you could build a paintbrush with a lightning rod and some candle, as well as a paint bucket with an iron block and heavy-weighted pressure plates. 4 armor stands are placed on top of daylight sensors like so. They're equipped with zombie heads and pushed with pistons until they're all in the center. Next, fill the floor up, place trapdoors for the chair rest, and you'll have a cushioned chair. If you place skulk veins all around a barrier block, it almost looks like a block of skulk leaves. And with enough of them, you could build a full-on skulk tree. Azalea leaves are amazing as bushes, but we can make them even better. By using invisible item frames and putting sunflowers inside, we can create yellow bushes. We can also try mixing in different flower types as well for more variation. Farms can look pretty ugly if they're just in the middle of your world. To blend them in, place down some pods all around the farm. Everyone knows that mud can be converted to clay by using a dripstone to drain the water out. However, the block in between the mud and dripstone can actually be almost any block you want. So a cool build hack is to use waterlogged copper grates to make it look like the water is flowing through the copper grate to get to the dripstone. When building in Minecraft, you should try to use a gradient of blocks to make sure things don't get stale. So if you've got a mud floor, a great way to spruce it up is by changing out some of the mud with brown mushroom blocks, which kind of looks like smooth mud. This tiny little log with an axe in it is adorable! To create it, just place a custom player skull with a log texture, and then summon an invisible armor stand holding an axe so that the axe's blade is just sticking into the top of the log. It's a simple detail, but placing it into a forest cabin scene makes the build look a lot more lived in. I wish Minecraft had tomatoes. The closest we have to it is rose bushes. So if you go ahead and drop a few armor stands on top of your rose bushes, it'll resemble a trellis that the tomato vine vines are growing on. You can actually put mobs on display. Just trap a mob in this small area, place a wall on the ground, so the creeper can't escape. Glass blocks can be squished into it, giving you your very own creeper pet. Run! While mobs with armor are scary enough, you can actually give them armor trim gear, and it'll make them look terrifying. I really like how it looks on piglins. Most people know you can waterlog stairs, but a cool trick to do this with them is to create tiny rivers. You can also add cactus in flower pots to create a miniature desert world. On Bedrock Edition, when you place string on top of walls, it'll slightly raise them. But if you try the same thing on Java Edition, you'll get a bunch of mini lumps. If you want the most unique chair in all of Minecraft, place an armor stand below a campfire like so. We can give it a helmet and fill the campfire up with some sort of food to create this cushion design. Make sure to dye the color of the helmet to match whatever food is on the campfire for extra creativity. With a combination of packed mud and granite blocks, we can easily construct a mound of dirt. But the real trick is to use some melon seeds and invisible item frames to actually create little groups of termites crawling up the blocks. This plushie is so cute! You can create it by pushing around armor stands and dropping them repeatedly. Next, push in a stair block and finish it off with a banner that looks like a face. I love it! We can make a better cauldron for the witch. Just place a respawn anchor and fully load it up. Next, place a trapdoor on the side and place a campfire beneath it. This is much spookier. With a lectern facing the wall and a few leaves on top, you can create a houseplant. Decorated pots are great for adding some details to your builds, but an unexpected way to use them is actually as pillars. They work surprisingly well to hold up your roofs. With just a target block, item frames, and some buttons, you can create this unique dartboard. You can make realistic playing cards using a loom and banners. If you then place them on invisible item frames, you'll get a complete poker table. Look at this campfire, it's so cool! To make it, dig a hole and place 3 layers of snow in each spot. Next, set up pistons around the holes and push the armor stands into the corners. Then place armor stands between the others and push grass blocks down into them. Finally, equip each of the armor stands with a skeleton skull and light the center on fire. This looks so cozy! Ouch! It's cactus too prickly! If you want a safer alternative, you can make some fake ones with bamboo blocks and amethyst crystals as tiny cactus fruit. If we place a hanging sign on the side of a block, it creates this little support rod that's perfect for a parrot to sit perched on top of. Body of the guitar is shaped with signs and trapdoors to give it that recognizable acoustic guitar shape, and the neck is a fence with a flower pot on top to resemble the guitar's headstock. Then you can use a striped banner to recreate the guitar strings to finish it off. You can make this PlayStation with no mods. Place a custom skull on the bottom of the PlayStation. Dispense an armor stand into the same block and equip it with another mob skull. Now for 2 game controllers, just place 2 armor stands like so, equip them with skulls, and push blocks on top of them. It's quite simple yet looks super cool. To make your volcanoes 100 times better, place a campfire below the lava. This way your volcano will be puffing out toxic fumes. There's something insane you can do with happy gas. If you get one into a minecart, you can actually then build around it to decorate the ghast. You can create all kinds of decorations like giving the ghast a crown, making the ghast blush, or even a monocle and a mustache to look like a detective. But if you're extra creative, you can even make the ghast look like the head of a giant statue. It's so scary! Birch planks make a pretty good looking floor. But if you're trying to go for an old worn down look, try mixing in some stripped bamboo logs to look like the floor is fading out. If you place the walls in the side of your builds like this, you can make it look like the build was damaged or is under construction. Normal fences aren't scary enough! Instead, use pale wood, pale fences, end rods, and white candles to create a gothic fence that'll send shivers down your spines. The top of the creaking heart and sides both look so cool! We can utilize this by building your floor of creaking hearts placed at different angles to create this spooky carpet. If you right-click a goat horn in an item frame, you'll notice it looks like a spinning loading symbol. So by using command blocks to automatically rotate the item frame, we can make this goat horn loading animation on a wall. Armor stands are boring, but there's a better way to show off your gear. Using pistons, push down blocks on top of your armor stand to create a glass case. And if you're feeling extra fancy, push down 2 glass blocks on top of an armor stand to showcase your entire set. With some stairs, stone bricks, and the dispenser, you can make a working medieval cannon. Be careful not to set your house on fire! If you really love your dogs, why not treat them with this luxurious double-decker doghouse? The little dog bowl is made by placing a carpet on top of a decorated pot on the bottom level. Then use stairs and slabs to build the top level. Surround the whole thing in some trapdoors for the walls, and now you've got a cozy fort for your pets, but not for your cats! This is an illegal skateboard. It has tiny wheels and was made completely in survival mode. If you want your own, place armor stands with wither skeleton skulls on trapdoors, and then use pistons to push them into chains to align them. Next, push floor blocks and slabs into them, creating the illusion that the skulls are actually the wheels of this board. Every garden needs a swing. Place trapdoors for the border, and along the top, place rails. Once you flip the trapdoors down, the rails will stay floating and provide roofing. Lastly, just place place down a grindstone and chain to create the ultimate swing. By placing a piece of bamboo in a flower pot and then putting this custom player head on top, we can create a piranha plant. We can also make it face upwards or use different kinds of player heads to create what looks like custom plants. By utilizing a large number of carefully patterned banners, we can manage to create a beautiful painting like this one. User Fotifox has meticulously recreated the Mona Lisa using 30 banners, making for a relatively small painting that you could actually fit in an art museum. The front of observers looks like a face, so we can actually create a robot using one as the head, hoppers for the shoulders, and a grindstone as the wheel. Get off my lawn! If your lawn is infested with chickens, try scaring them off with this. Use prismarine blocks and slabs to create the outline of your crocodile. Add warped buttons as the ridges, a banner as the eyes, and you can dispense an armor stand with a dragon head at the face to create the nose of your crocodile. Actually, this is kinda cute. Circles are hard to come by in Minecraft, which is why if you're trying to make wheels, a cheap and easy alternative is just using mangrove trapdoors as them. Blocks normally have to be placed on Minecraft's grid system, but by connecting stairs like so, it'll look like a full block is off the grid. The nether is too big, so I made my tiny one. You can build this tiny crimson forest with crimson nylium for the ground, and some crimson fences and nether wart blocks to create the crimson fungus trees. You can even have a tiny nether portal banner design, placed in such a way that the bottom half gets cut off. Or you could swap out the crimson blocks for warped ones to create a tiny warped forest instead. Do you see where I hid my diamonds? It's actually underneath this cake. You can make it by placing a few snow layers, dropping a minecart chest inside, and squishing a composter down on top. To hide the chest, just place a cake on top. When you go to store your diamonds, make sure you have another cake to replace the eaten one, or your hidden stash won't be so hidden. If we use a series of bamboo bows placed between bamboo fences, we can create a convincing bamboo bridge that works in both directions. And since boats have a solid hitbox, you can still walk across like it was made of blocks. By placing a bunch of different colored buttons on some stone, we can create a rock climbing wall. You can even make some of the buttons activate pistons, so you can actually try climbing upwards. Or if you have invisible item frames, you can have colorful concrete grips instead. The inside of a chest is ugly! We can fix this by dispensing an armor stand below a chest and give the armor stand a golden helmet. And now whenever you open the chest, you'll see the top of the gold helmet sitting inside. You can also use a turtle shell instead to make your chest look like it's full of emeralds. Minecraft cakes are boring! Here's how to make a triple-decker one. Place a regular cake for the base, and then a cake textured player head placed on top. For the middle layer, dispense an armor stand and give it the cake player head, and you'll have a perfect wedding cake. I'm rich! Look at all these dollar bills I have! You can make your own by using 2 lime dye and a dark green banner and putting it on a shield, and it looks exactly like a dollar bill. They look huge when you hold them in your hand, but by placing them in an item frame makes them the perfect size to be decoration for a counter in a shop. Most players use a cauldron as their toilet, but it's a bit too big. You're more likely to fall into it than anything. Instead, dispense an armor stand into the ground and give it a diamond helmet. Next, push down a plank and an upside-down quartz stair. This toilet looks much better. My trash can is better than yours. By placing a mangrove trapdoor on top of a pot, it makes a perfect trash can shape. But by then connecting a hopper to the bottom of the trash can with some lava and redstone hidden under the ground, you can make the trash can actually functional. So anything put in the pot gets ejected into the lava. A super fancy decoration is a tombstone. By using some stone bricks and stairs, you can create the outline of the tomb. Use lecterns on the inside to create what looks like a casket. And if you want the tombstone to look extra realistic, try replacing some of the blocks with mossy and cracked bricks. This baby villager does not deserve a full-size bed. Instead, it should have this little baby cradle. By using commands, we're able to place just the top half of a bed between these 2 trapdoors. Next, put some signs to create the walls of the crib. This is your new bed now! With stained glass panes and item frames for the wheels, a lightning rod for the cannon, and an acacia boat so you can sit in it. We've got everything you need for a mini machine of mass destruction. Want to create a sleek, high-speed train? Use quartz blocks to shape the main body of the train. Place invisible item frames on the sides and insert black glass panes to mimic tinted windows. And for the nose of the train, start by placing a banner on the ground. Then place a stair block on top of the banner to form a pointed front. Finally, just add some trapdoors and repeaters on top to complete your train. Instead of using fences for your balconies, try using hanging signs. They look a lot sleeker. This aquarium works without glass, but how? Simply place stairs at both the bottom and top like so. Next, waterlog the bottom stairs and then add water to the top stairs. Finally, fill the center with seagrass to create some source blocks throughout. Fish can now be added to happily swim inside. Although the mace is an amazing weapon, the 2D texture isn't the greatest. To make our own hammer, place an armor stand into the ground, push a stone block into it, and then add an end rod for the handle. Finally, we can just add a few decoration blocks around it, and we'll have a hammer sitting on a rock. To permanently change the season of your trees, you can replace all the trees' leaves with pale leaves. They fit perfectly in a snowy biome. While pipes don't exist in Minecraft, Minecraft, you can actually use pistons to look like them by angling them to their sides. You can make your furnaces look like they are connected to a power source. If you use a fill command to create a massive cube of candles, you'll notice these weird stripy patterns that move around as you turn your head. This is an optical illusion that happens when you create a grid of evenly spaced things. If you want a bigger flower pot, try placing it on top of a decorated pot. The textures match up perfectly and will make everyone jealous of your giant pots. Everyone knows you can use anvils or stone slabs and item frames to create torch holders, but why limit yourself? You can try all sorts of different items like walls, scaffolding, trapdoors, fence gates, copper grates. If you're in creative mode, you can also use invisible item frames to make them look extra fancy. Do you like my gaming setup? Invisible armor stands are holding up dyed shields, and they look just like monitors. The keyboard is made from an armor stand's iron helmet, and the mouse is just a button. With just some fences, sandstone slabs, and signs, you can create a cat playhouse. They're having so much fun. Die! When piglins enter the overworld, they quickly turn zombified. However, a cool trick we can do is dispensing a piglin head on top. This feels so wrong though. The picture's plant's growth stages all look quite different. The middle stage in particular looks like a potato. So by mixing one up in one of your potato farms, it'll look like a giant potato growing. Make sure to put string on top though to make sure the picture plant doesn't keep on growing. Using glazed terracotta, we can build these murals of giant sunflowers into our walls. They go perfectly on the walls of this lime-colored building, and this really has to be the most unique building I've ever seen. By putting some of these stairs in illegal positions with the debug stick, we're able to effectively create vertical slabs in this wall to create the tiny windows to shoot arrows from. It's possible to place a carpet on a decorated pot, so by building it into your floor, it'll sort of look like a food bowl for your dog. Once the ultimate library, in between one of your bookshelves, just carve a hole out and fill it in with water. In this area, you can add a fish and seagrass to create a mini aquarium. To add some extra depth, use wood and trapdoors to create a circle shape and finish it off with some extra decoration. Your library will look so much better. Do you like my cubic trees? They can be built from granite and jungle planks for the trunk, and wool, moss, and carpet for the leaves. I just love how each branch gets its own set of cube leaves. Lanterns need to be placed on the ground or supported in the air, otherwise they'll break. Luckily, glass panes are nearly invisible, so you can attach your lanterns to them to get floating lanterns. You can even connect leads and chickens together to make the lanterns look like they're held up by ropes. If you want a realistic pool table, place hoppers and signs down as the base. Next, fill the gaps with wall blocks and place carpets on top. On the sides, place trapdoors to cover the holes, and to take it to another level, use invisible item frames of colored blocks inside to look like balls. This is a katana. To create it, put 2 armor stands and push blocks downward to get the holder. Next, push 2 chains on one side and a lightning rod on the other side to get your legendary katana. Cattails aren't in Minecraft, but that doesn't mean we can't create them. Just place a support block, place some brown candles, and replace the bottom block with a plant of your choice. While not perfect, it's a great way to diversify your swamps and ponds. You can make SpongeBob in Minecraft. SpongeBob is obviously made from a sponge, but his other details are cleverly made using levers for arms, a spruce trapdoor for his pants, an armor stand for his legs and feet, and my favorite detail, a black candle on top to represent his hat. But we can't forget about Gary. His shell is made from a stripped cherry log with a mangrove trapdoor to add the circular detailing on the side. For his head, we use an oxidized copper slab with a banner to create his eyes. You can make a parrot house with a few trapdoors and a slab. On the inside, set down a turtle egg in an item frame and place a coral on top. Your parrot would love this house. This is an anti-homeless bench. It's made by using 2-stair blocks and putting a fence in the middle so no villagers can sleep on it. It's quite mean though, so I don't recommend adding this to your village parks. By stacking a bunch of decorated pots, you can create awesome totem poles. The different pottery designs are perfect to resemble the main different engravings on a typical totem pole. And you can also add some small wings on the side to really perfect the design. Having a trapdoor at the top of your ladders used to be a pain because you couldn't climb up them. However, in version 1.9, this was changed, and now trapdoors could be climbed, if directly above a ladder. This allows us to create cursed ladders like this, where a ladder is alternated with a trapdoor. You can even take it one step further and create a 2-sided ladder. Make sure not to flip the trapdoor though, it'll break the ladder.